begin. Hi, everybody. My name is Samantha. I'm the Program Impact Manager for Olympic College Foundation, and I oversee the scholarship program. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to go over the scholarships that are currently open during this cycle for fall 2025-2026. And we'll go over how to apply and kind of some frequently asked questions. So before we begin, I'll just kind of give a summary of the scholarships that are open right now. Our fall scholarship cycle is currently open for applications. It opened on July 14th. The deadline to apply is September 16th. We have about 20 scholarships available. Some of those scholarships have multiple awards. The vast majority of scholarships open in this cycle are for students that are enrolled or pending admission into an allied healthcare program. So that includes all of the nursing programs like LPN, BSN, RN, as well as kind of the other programs within the allied healthcare program. So um, medical assisting, radiology, phlebotomy, sonography, um, physical therapy assistant, and so on. So if you've applied and you're pending admission, do still apply for scholarships during this cycle. And if you're already admitted, then you would definitely want to apply during this cycle. There are a handful of scholarships that are available that aren't associated with the Allied Healthcare Program, but there's just a couple. One is for Marine Corps veterans or Navy veterans who served a tour with the Marine Corps. There's one for students who are studying journalism or communications or are budding authors in some capacity, and then one for students studying math or engineering. So this is a lot smaller of a cycle, smaller group of scholarships available than what we normally have in the spring. Our next scholarship cycle will open in January and be open until April of 2026. And those will be for funding during the 26-27 academic year. And during that cycle, we will have 60 to 70 scholarships available, and it'll be a lot more broad areas of study than the ones we have during this cycle. Scholarships that are awarded during this cycle are going to be dispersed during winter and spring quarters of 2026. So you'll be notified by November if you're receiving any funds, and then those will begin being dispersed the final 2 quarters of this academic year. So with that kind of overview of the scholarships that are available, I'm going to start sharing my screen and go over how to apply, how to navigate through the website, and just some general information on our application process. So give me one moment while I share my screen here. All right, so if you're on the Olympic College website, you'll see this tab here called Fund Your Education, and you can navigate to our website one of two ways. You can click OC Foundation or you can click on scholarships. If you click on scholarships, there is the very first section here at the top, this link, OC Foundation Scholarships, under Apply for Scholarships. If you keep scrolling, there is some general information about outside scholarships, but right now we're going to just focus on OC Foundation Scholarships. So you'll click that link. It's going to take you to our scholarship page of our website, olympiccollegefoundation.org. There's some general information. You can click on how to apply or scholarship information for more details. You can go to AwardSpring, which is the online portal we use to submit your application. If you click on how to apply, there's some additional resources here. You can sign up for any future Zoom workshops. You can schedule a one-on-one meeting with me if you have questions with your application. You can watch a recording of a training. And then there's also this link to a little kind of infographic on how to request a letter of recommendation. We got a lot of questions on what a letter of recommendation should include last year, so we decided to upload that little document. And if you have questions, you can email me right here. When you go to AwardSpring, you'll be prompted to either sign into an account if you've applied with us before or create a new account. if you click register, you'll get a link to set a password. If you forgot your password, just click forgot password and you can reset it. If you have any issues accessing your account, you can also email me and I'd be happy to help you. If you've applied for scholarships in the past and you have an AwardSpring account, you do still have to start over from scratch with a scholarship application. It doesn't save your previous answers. Sometimes our application changes slightly between the cycles. So that's why you have to kind of start over with the application process. Once you get logged in, you're going to see what your next steps are. So if you've just logged in for the first time, your next step is going to be to begin or start your application. So when you click on the application tab, there are a few different tabs along the left here that you're going to be navigating through. At the top here is some general information about the application cycle. So this is saying you need to use them during the 25-26 academic year if you're awarded scholarships. That you have to be an OC student. We need the CTC link number. So if you've not yet applied for OC, you'll want to click here to do that. And then there are sometimes required next steps after you submit your application. So when you're done and you hit submit, go back to the dashboard or the home page and make sure you see if there are any next steps that you need to complete. Some scholarships have follow-up questions. One thing to note about that, some students have a hard time viewing those next steps on a phone. So I do recommend logging in on a computer and visiting the dashboard to see if you have any next steps. And then sometimes the follow-up questions are something like, um, if you have an interest in working on cars, please tell us about your background repairing cars or working on cars. And you might think, I have no interest or background in working on cars. That doesn't mean you shouldn't submit something. Sometimes we have scholarships that have a preference for example, somebody who enjoys working on automotives. But if nobody who applies has that interest, then we don't necessarily consider that preference. So you could just write does not apply to me or NA and still submit so that you're still considered for the scholarship in the event that maybe nobody met that preference for that specific award. So do still apply if you qualify, but don't really align with that preference. Just indicate that that doesn't apply to you, but still hit apply for that award. Okay, so as you go through here, you're going to input your CTC link number, you're going to input your email, and this can be your student email or your personal email, whichever. It just needs to be one that you're going to be checking regularly because this is where we're going to notify you if you've received an award or not. And then you'll put in your date of birth and your gender identity, your address, all of this information. It just helps us for our internal data, but it's not anything that a scholarship reviewer is going to see. It's not anything that a donor is going to see. So this contact information and your gender identity and things like that are all kept private. So you'll go through this and you'll answer all of the questions. Um, and then as you navigate through, you're going to see off to the side here, it'll say in progress. And if you work your way through and you answer all the questions, it'll say completed. So if I answer these questions here really quickly. All right, so you'll see now off to the side, this section says completed because I finished all the questions. So if any section says in progress, you'll want to go back through and finish providing that. Next, we have questions on if you filed your FAFSA or WASFA. This is strongly encouraged. We want to make sure students are accessing any available funds to them. Often students think that they won't qualify for any state or federal funding, and then they're pleasantly surprised that they do. So if you have filed your FAFSA or WASFA, you were assigned a number called a Student Aid Index, which is kind of how they determined how much aid you might need for school. You'll type that number in here. If you don't know it, you can log into your FAFSA account and look at your submission summary, and it should be available there. If you didn't file your FAFSA or WASFA, there will be a question just asking why. Maybe you're not eligible if you're an international student or something like that. We just want to know kind of what the status is. And then if you're receiving any support benefits, you'll answer that here as well. There's some follow-up questions on income. Some of our scholarships have a preference for students with greater levels of financial need. So by providing your information here, it just helps us determine kind of what your financial need might be so that if you qualify for those types of scholarships, we can take that into consideration. Then in your academic information, we're asking what your current academic status is. So this is going to be for the start of fall quarter 25-26. If you're currently taking summer classes, you'll kind of add however many credits you're currently enrolled in to whatever your previously completed credits are, and then figure out where that lands you in these kind of ranges. And then if you plan on enrolling full-time, you'll indicate that here. If you're going to be less than full-time, click on which boxes most apply to you. Some of our scholarships are for only full-time students. Some of them require that you're in at least 6 credits or more. So whatever you indicate here is going to kind of filter you into whichever scholarships you might apply or qualify for. If you're working towards an associate or a bachelor's or a certificate, you'll just indicate that here. Um, and then you'll input your GPA. And then under areas of study, there are a lot of options here. If you scroll through, they are all alphabetical. You'll want to click all that apply to you. So if you're studying, um, I'm just going to go with nursing because we're in this cycle where a lot of scholarships are for nursing. You can click health sciences and you can click medicine and you can click nursing. So go through and click all that apply to you, since some of the categories here do kind of overlap or have some intersection. Or if you're studying engineering, but you also are really interested in um, math or chemical engineering, you can select all three of those things. Then you'll select what campus you're applying, which high school you're graduating from or you previously graduated from. And if you don't see your option here, you can just scroll to the bottom and click either other Washington high school, out of state high school, or out of country high school. And then if you have any other degrees already. These next sections here are your essay questions. These are the bulk of what our scholarship review volunteers are reviewing. They don't have access to a lot of your answers in these previous sections because those are just filtering you into what scholarships you might qualify for. The bulk of what our review volunteers are reviewing is your essay responses. So we have 2 essays. One is a personal statement and one is a financial statement. You have a maximum word count of 1,000 words. You do not have to use that full amount. You certainly can, but that's just your maximum here. I usually recommend folks type this up in a Word document so you can kind of watch your word count and then copy paste it once you're all done. And within each of these essay questions, there are multiple questions we're asking you to answer. The format you use to answer those is completely up to you. If you want to literally number them and write your answers, you can do that. If you just want to write a free-flowing essay and address those questions within your response, that's completely fine too. We're not judging your grammar or your spelling or your sentence structure or kind of how your essay was structured. We just want to know who you are, what your goals are, what your, educational goals at OC are, as well as your long-term career goals, and kind of why you and your situation makes you a top candidate for a scholarship. So even if you've answered questions previously in this academic information section about kind of I'm studying nursing or the medical field, give us more context and background in your personal statement here so that we can really know kind of what your journey is, what your long-term career goals are, etc. And then in your financial statement, we want to know your financial need and the impact having a scholarship from OC Foundation would have on your ability to achieve your goals, and how that might impact you or your family and or your community. So those are your two essays. They should be written in your own voice. Some folks, want to have somebody proofread them. That's completely fine. But we want to just make sure we're getting to know you. And again, we're not judging your spelling or your grammar or anything of that nature. Then in your extracurricular activities here, we just ask about any volunteer service, hobbies, work experience, etc. You can outline that here. And then if you play any sports, there's a follow-up question if you mark yes to ask if you're admitted onto an OC sports team. And then lastly, this qualifications question, some of these seem really random. It's because a lot of these different questions are filtering you into which scholarships you might qualify for. So for example, we have a scholarship for students enrolled in the OLTM program. So if you mark yes, that helps filter you into that scholarship and so on. So just go through these, even if it seems kind of redundant, please answer all the questions. And then since we're talking about the nursing scholarships during this cycle, you'll see this first question is, are you majoring in the healthcare field, including enrollment in the allied healthcare program? And if you mark yes, there's follow-up questions. So are you currently enrolled or have you applied and you're pending admission? And if you mark yes, another follow-up question about which program you're enrolled in or pending admission into, and then where you're at in your timeline. Are you pending admission? Are you entering your second year of your program? Are you in your second quarter of the program? So give us a little bit of context on where you're at in your journey throughout that program that you've been admitted to or you're applying to. And then this very last section here is for any uploads. We have an option to upload an unofficial transcript. That's completely up to you. You can just submit your self-reported GPA and your academic information. And if awarded a scholarship, we do verify your GPA. But if you'd like to upload a copy of your transcript, it's always helpful. You can also upload or request up to 2 letters of recommendation. You can either upload it directly by clicking I have my letter of recommendation in hand, and then you're given an option to upload a file, or you can request it by putting the recipient's name and email and sending a request. And they're going to get an email asking for a letter of recommendation on your behalf. And they'll have a link to upload it directly once they've written it. I recommend editing this message to the recipient to give them a little bit of context. And I always recommend talking to somebody first before sending this request so they are anticipating they're going to be getting an email asking for them to upload a letter of recommendation. The deadline for scholarships is September 16th, and that is the deadline too for updating or uploading any files. So if you have someone who's waiting to upload a letter of recommendation and that deadline is approaching, definitely check in with them, give them some reminders because after September 16th, we can't upload any documents. Even after you've submitted your application, you can go back in and make edits up until September 16th. So if you learn that you were admitted into a program, you can go in and you can update that. If you want to amend your essays or anything like that, you can make those changes up until the 16th, but after that date, we can't make any more changes. So if this button at the bottom isn't yellow and you can't submit your application, that means that you aren't quite done. So you're going to want to scroll up to the top and see which sections say they are in progress and complete the steps in order to be able to submit your application. Okay, so that is just kind of an overview of Award Spring and the application process. Once you have submitted your application, like I said, you can go back in and edit it and make sure you go back to your dashboard and see what other items you have to complete, as there might be some follow-up steps that you need to complete or follow-up questions you might need to answer in order to submit your application for any specific scholarships. For any scholarships that don't have those follow-up questions, you're automatically applied to them. You don't have any additional steps. And then we'll be notifying students in November as to whether or not they are receiving any awards. And like I said at the beginning, those awards are then dispersed over winter and spring quarters of 2026. So I'm going to stop sharing here and just pause to see if anybody has any questions. Just a reminder, we are recording this session, so if you unmute to ask a question or turn on your camera, that will be recorded. You can also message in the chat if anyone has any questions. Let's see. I saw a chat come through that says, if you're enrolled in the ADN Associates program, but you want to also get a BSN after, would you select bachelor's or associate degree? You would mark associate for now, since that's what you're currently enrolled in. But then there's a follow-up question that asks if you plan to get a bachelor's degree, and you could mark yes for that, and then kind of speak to that long-term kind of trajectory in your essay. That's a great question, Jonathan. Any other questions?
Yes, who would you recommend for letters of recommendation? Like who,
Yeah.
like what criteria?
Great question. It could be a current or former professor. It could also be an employer, um, coach, colleague. Basically, it shouldn't be a friend or family member, but somebody who knows you in either an academic or professional setting. I always recommend giving them a little bit of context as to what your goals are, because you might have, interacted with them in a class, but that doesn't mean they really know what your long-term career and academic goals are. So give them a little bit of context so they know that side of you, and give them context as to what the letter is for, that it's for a scholarship to help you with your educational journey, and that they should hopefully speak to why you're deserving of those funds um, in their letter that they write you. And then I was showing earlier, and I can share my screen again and show you where to find it, but there is a little kind of infographic I made recently on how to request a letter of recommendation and what sort of information you should provide. So you can find this on the Olympic College Foundation website under how to apply for scholarships. There's a link here, how to request a letter of recommendation. And I'm also going to place that in the chat for you. But here's this document that you can use, kind of give them a few weeks notice, give them reminder emails, give specifics as to what they should include, and a little bit about you and your background and your goals that they could speak to those. But yeah, a current or former professor or employer is always a good option because they've seen you in either an academic or professional setting.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'm pasting that in the chat now as well. Any other questions? Okay. So I am available for one-on-one check-ins if anyone has follow-up questions as you get started on your application. You can schedule that with me on our website under the how to apply for scholarships. There's a little link to schedule a one-on-one session with me. You can also email me. My email is sfairweather@olympic.edu. I'll place that in the chat as well, or just stop by our office. We have open office hours Monday through Friday from 10 to 2, and we're in Building 5, Room 300 on the OC Bremerton campus. Okay. If you have any other questions, feel free to stick around. Otherwise, you can pop off the call, and good luck on your scholarship applications. All right. Thank you, everybody.